PEC season in Overwatch with Boise State taking on Syracuse. Over the next few months, you'll see some of the top FBS schools competing against each other in a wide range of esports titles. Tonight, we go to Overwatch, where Boise State's varsity squad, veteran players, some new as well, are looking to get the first win of the season. You can see them up there on stage getting all ready and prepped to go. It's great plays as well, but what really matters is that the squad that we have here, right now tonight, gets that win. And I actually heard Doc talking with the team earlier saying, do you want to sweep this in 3 matches? So there is a bit of confidence up there on stage for the Broncos. Definitely. And sometimes confidence is key. If you're curious more, though, about what we have coming up in the general season for Boise State, and make sure, of course, to build up as much tempo as you can. Brought to you by Boise State Esports. Now, as we're ready to head into the first of 5 stages, let's take a look at the opening roster. We've got Amanda Bailey, Cannon Miller, Garrett Strickler, Carter Jones, Will Hess, and Jenny Cummins. Should note that Amanda Bailey is a tank player, so maybe we will see her, specifically Diamond Dog, the gamer tag, in-game. All lined up, starting out on Antarctic Peninsula. Lots of great stages to play here. Could be any 3 of sub-level, labs, or icebreaker. But right now, let's get down to the field. Boise State taking on Syracuse. Broncos versus the Orange, ready to fight here tonight. And sometimes the tank can make the decision to move the whole team to that spot on a whim if it's advantageous to them.
Yeah, you can see that a lot more recently with some of the tank picks when it comes to tanks like Diva, who like to control the space by being on the point and being the enemy team's base and preventing them from taking a lot of new
brought out the ball, as you said, trying to go in and get the demolition on their supports. As Boise State has to retreat, they're going to drop the minefield right down on point, but Syracuse has already taken it away from Boise State. Speed Glasses is the first to be eliminated thanks to that minefield. Boise State, though, they've only got their tank, Strider, fighting all by himself. Hex comes in for the reinforcements. Boise State, can they take this point back? They sure can, and I'm surprised that they were able to take that fight back with how spread apart their tank was from the rest of their team.
Yeah, the ball in this situation was a really good point of like how he used his super to make sure that the point was under his control, even though he was by himself. And
State has so much that they could possibly. Now they just have to make sure that they fight as a cohesive unit. So already we're seeing their May getting pushed back a little bit by some chip damage. And there we go, Tectonic Shock followed by the minefield, brought out two ultimates. One to just take out the Immortality Field, the other to actually get elimination, and that minefield's paying dividends as it picks up a double. Boise State CPS is also doing work, a triple for the minefield and the Baptiste. Now the tank drops for Syracuse. That means a surefire win for Boise State and the first of the two stages they need to win round one.
Score 0-1.
Really good start for Boise State. And now we'll be moving on to labs as the second, so might not even see sub-level after all. Boise State showing that they got a really deep roster this semester coming online. I also have to say, Diamond Dog isn't the only new player that we see being brought to the field here. One of Boise State's biggest signups for the last season was for the last summer, and Strider is all over the place trying to focus down this Tracer. Has to use the recall to get on out of there. Boise State has some good positioning. They already got one person on the point, and the charge is heading on up. They're forced off by Syracuse. Frost is eliminated, but is traded back by Sign Saint, eliminated. So you got a DPS traded for a support. Boise State's going to lose one of their supports, and a trade back. Very crucial pick against Lunar, the tank. Can the remaining players clean it up on the points? Well, Strider sure can. He gets one pick against the Luna, and now Strider. And now here comes the Terra Surge out from Lunar. Isn't really able to get anybody. This ball isn't going to get captured by anything like a Terra Surge. So low on health and eliminated thanks to Lyric and the Biotic Grenade as well. Boise State just working like a well-oiled machine.
3 supers are coming up on Boise State's side.
Off of the point.
When it came to that last engagement, we saw that each team only traded one super for one super, essentially. A Kitsune Rush sorry, 2 supers, right? They had the also their orbital ray also come out too.
Strider, even still being alive though, managed to pick up a double just before that start. Looked like we have just a little bit of a hiccup, and we'll be getting right back into the action as soon as we can, because I want to see more about how Strider is really just making his presence known. I remember when we had first recruited Matt Merck, actually a well-known Boise State tank. That demonstrates a lot of confidence in the ability to play the game and where the geometry of the stage is. You know, every single hiding spot, every single possible flank, every single choke point that you need to know. As we get back into the action, Strider. We left him off by picking up a double, and that's making it very difficult for Syracuse to retake this point.
And we see that his team really rallies behind him when he decides to make these positioning and these hard pushes into the team to make sure that the DPS can really take that the advantage that he's trying to set up for them to pick off the important targets they need to really focus on to take the team fights.
So now Boise State is getting ready to head into the second round of this best of 5. Of course, whatever conference we're in, whether it be PEC or
and the attacks on these maps.
Well, in terms of something that we might see.
The attacks on these maps.
Well, in terms of something that we might see different, I mean, Eichenwald is kind of the pocket pick that's usually as the first alternative that's been brought out onto King's Row. Of course, I can't say if that will be the case right here. I mean, and then there are other stages that, you know, I'm convinced they're not even in the game anymore. You know, I don't know what Blizzard World is. I haven't seen it in years and years and years, and I've given up all hope in just seeing it. And I just know that complacency wins out the day, and usually that is playing on King's Row. But that's a very risky stage to challenge a top-tier school like Boise State on, and yeah, what did I tell you?
It's King's Row.
Yep, just wash, rinse, and repeat. Just pick the default. Stage like this, you're picking on a stage that everyone scrims on, that everyone plays, that everyone knows by heart, and that really takes any sort of stage advantage kind of off the table. It comes down to just the pure mechanics of the game. Who can play their picks, their heroes more effectively, who is more lethal, who has better aim. And that's something that's very scary to challenge the Broncos on.
I'm really interested if we were going to see a ball come out on King's Row, as ball is usually not a very familiar pick from what I understand on this map.
No, haven't really seen ball be brought out on King's Row. I mean, it does have some interesting verticality options, and I mean, especially, you know, you could, if you're good enough, you know, really, I guess, hop up to the upper levels in the factory stage, but at the same time, the factory stage is so closed off and enclosed that you can't really get a whole lot going with the ball. What we tend to see a lot more is the brawly composition. I mean, the Mei-Ryan pick, the Mei-Ryan combo, the wall and maul has been the bread and butter for this stage for so long. Boise State has run it so many times. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if we see that be the pick.
Definitely, especially with the popularity of heroes like Juno and Lucio being brought out more, we can see those comps really thrive with their ability to close the gap.
Much damage as possible, and then because the team is crowding around them saying, you know, Ramatra one, and just trying to get that elimination, that's when they benefit the full health out of it because the team's crowding around them, and then they just go ham. That's kind of it's one of the, you have to be scared of the Ramatra at every moment before the final kill feed actually shows that you got it.
Definitely. And it's interesting you bring up Ramatra is that, oh, well, now we're seeing who, we see that we have Rhino, like you said previously. There's a very safe pick on King's Row.
Yeah, Diamond Dog also, we're going to see Diamond Dog be brought onto the tank role as well. So we'll get a showcase of both of the new tank players' options. But yeah, very, very standard comp for Boise State. Nothing that we haven't seen from them before. My eyebrows do raise a little bit at what I saw from Syracuse, but it's so early and there might just be some sort of issue there in loading in that we can't say for sure. But my eyes didn't deceive me. We did see a Far Mercy. Which, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not really seeing that. Instead, we're going to get health to keep him in the fight. Even though they lost Frost, Boise State is still positioning themselves well, so Frost can come in off the respawn, even though it is so far away. He's now looking down from above, ready to throw down that dynamite or whatever he wants to do to push as much damage as possible. A0 gets the melee onto Lyric. Frost now moves throughout the arch, trying to get some more shots onto Lunar.
We're seeing that Boise State is taking control of the high ground.
Frost looking to see what he can do. Already one tick secured by Syracuse. Peek out, trying to get the charge onto, waits out and waits for the CC ability to burn out, but it's not enough. Diamond Dog eliminated. Strider gets one pick against the Juno, but it really isn't enough to take back everything quite yet. Now we have a quick swap over here with a new face joining the crowd. Mister, will you introduce yourself to the class, please?
Yeah, I'm AJ Pepperly. Just doing a quick swap here, but I will be here giving all of the same commentary that my...
Terror Surge as well, charging up to full charge, and the Javelin is a nasty combo right on the Diamond Dog. Everything is just pushing on to Boise State in the worst way possible. They are trying to fight back, but Boise State stumbling just a little bit.
Yeah, but we see that multi-kill that they still managed to get regardless of that. So in this difficult situation, we still managed to see them pull through and continue to keep that payload back.
despite that great start that Boise State had earlier on. Despite that great start that Boise State had earlier on in the fight, they managed to get a few eliminations toward the end of it, and the payload really hasn't moved too much. We're still in the streets phase. Zazier is doing wonders here on this Tracer, finds a pulse bomb onto Lyric. Boise State slipping as Syracuse continues on their forward push.
An entire team elimination here from Syracuse. We see that pulse bomb just getting charged up. She's got lots of places she can use it, but she's got to pick it carefully. It's a real small area of effect, but it does a great amount of damage. So if she places it right, she can get a very good elimination that could save them this game.
And the amazing thing about that is Boise State didn't spend too many ultimates. They only spent the nano boost. They still have the Earth Shatter ready to go, where Syracuse burned their only ultimate, so now they have nothing to stop against this newly charged Bob, which is also ready to join the fight. Biotic grenade placed onto the tank. Those have been hitting 100% of the time. Going into the back line as well to push the pulse grenade off. Isn't going to quite hit, but Boise State certainly catching Syracuse off guard, getting the pick onto speed glasses. Boise State still holding on to Bob. They don't want to use too much. Now they're moving again. It goes down, but I don't think the Shatter catches anybody. Terror Surge in response, and it gets Frost. Also Lyric eliminated as well. Hex and yeah, that's what I was that's what I was concerned by, is that having that orbital ray and that Terror Surge specifically in the face of that Shatter. I thought an amplification matrix by Syracuse. Boise State still yet to pick up anybody. Pulse grenade used to take out the immortality field. That's a nice pin by the Rhine as Sign Saint eliminated, but it is on to the Orisa, and she's tanking enough to survive through that. Strider gets the pick onto Azir, and at this point, just getting these picks here and there and holding Syracuse at bay is all that's needed for Boise State to stop them.
And this time, Syracuse does not have those ultimates.
One more team fight out of this.
Yeah, and this one team fight could be all that matters left, because at this point, it's either they get everyone off the payload, Syracuse gets everyone off the payload, or Boise State manages to defend it just all they need in order to stop overtime and get this last point.
Well, they are sure contesting, and we see the Earth Shatter being brought out, or is online. There it is, huge Shatter right onto Syracuse.
For this one, lots of heroes that can be good for these tight spaces, or to go out in public with these bigger, wider alleyways. But the only way to find out who's going to be picked is by looking now, and we do see a Reinhardt off in the distance and an Orisa, just like we had seen prior. So we might see a lot of those similar team fights we saw in this first round once again.
There's a few early peaks, usually swaps over. Usually the customists swap over to the other DPS. They're going to go for the Tracer. Now here we go, Boise State. Frost taking a little bit of a flank up the stairs, trying to get rid of this other Ashe. Beautifully done, does the combo with the dynamite. That Ashe will be bailed out by their supports. Boise State still has
showdowns.
As a way, even though he falls in the end, he was able to divert attention away from Syracuse, so Boise State could claim the payload for themselves. So sometimes attention is a resource in and of itself, and Strider was definitely doing a great job of being an annoying fly in Syracuse's ear.
Oh, absolutely. And we see them get this, we capture this point so early on that they still have 5 whole minutes to push it forward with the extra minutes from capturing this first checkpoint. So they have plenty of time, but they still have...
Just there, lands it! And then how soon will this Earth Shatter be used? The answer is, well, it's going to wait, in fact, just a little bit longer to try to get the charge against the Ramantra. Wait for the team, doesn't want to overextend themselves. I can respect that.
Yeah, we see Diamond Dog doing a great job pushing forward to push the rest of Syracuse back. That way that the rest of the team can get the payload even farther. They're so close to the checkpoint right now, still with 3 3/4 minutes on the
Pulse bomb landed onto Hex, but the payload is still moved forward for a bit. Diamond Dog can't get bailed out by Frost, so he's gonna make sure he gets eliminated fast as well. They just need to make sure they reset as a team and don't waste too much time on it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want them trickling in, getting...
Brought out by Lunar. He's going to be a huge threat. He's able to take out Bob. Hex falls afterwards. Lyric, their support. Boise State has no chance but to fall back yet again.
We saw that change to Ramantra. Just barely got that elimination with the Pulse Bomb right after she got eliminated. But we see this change to Ramantra from the previous Orisa. And while I did previously mention that she's great against the Reinhardt because of her anti-CC, we do see the incredible change in Syracuse's ability to defend against Boise State, rather than what we saw at the very beginning when Boise State nearly immediately captured that point.
And the Broncos did burn a lot of ultimates. They only got one lone ultimate left, as well as another nano boost coming online, but Syracuse is outmatching them in those resources. Diamond Dog ready to move forward, holds up the shield, rounds the corner, tries to land a flame strike. We see both ultimates being used by Syracuse. Right off the bat, Pulse Bomb doesn't find anything. Overclock forces Boise State back. They don't want to mess with those headshots. As the Juno is able to find the pick onto Lyric, and that's Boise State's healer down yet again. Syracuse has been doing a great job at holding Boise State.
Yeah, we see Diamond Dog go down 2. So now Boise State is once again pushed back, waiting for everybody, and now they only have a little over a minute left. So unless they can change it up, we see a change, Strider changing from Tracer to now Genji. So maybe they have a different plan of action in order to get the payload to that checkpoint, just for that little bit of extra time they need.
So now with those losses, has to try to hold on here. And man, this Juno is so deadly.
Yeah, comboing the Juno with the Ramatra is deadly because we see the Ramatra being able to stay alive for so long, and we know how much damage you can pump out.
So what looked to be a possible sweep, you know, you didn't join us for the beginning of the match, but I said right before we went on, Doc said, how about we sweep this in 3 maps? Oh, no, 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 Syracuse says. They wag their finger right in Boise State's face if they can win this last match. They've got this orbital ray to help them be tanky as well. And Lyric just falling time and time again to the Pulsars is just making Boise State unable to fight these team fights. Big name universities rekindling sort of those old sports rivalries. And when you have matchups as big as Boise State versus Syracuse, you want the matches to be close like the one we're seeing here tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And it's always so exciting to see when these get closer, because with a lot of these other matches against these less big and popular schools, it's usually just sweeps all around. But seeing this difference here with these much bigger schools, it's always so much closer, and it gets to these points where you're having to go to these 4th and 5th rounds just because of how good both of these teams are and how well they can play against each other. It's very exciting.
Boise State had an amazing start, but fumbled in Kings Row, ending it on Street, which usually also isn't what happened. It's usually ended either on the first point or in the factory, but for it to end on the Streets phase, it shows how difficult Boise State, how difficult it was for them to regain their footing.
Oh, absolutely. We saw Syracuse maybe struggling there for a little bit at the start of their defensive round, but we saw how quickly, it seemed as soon as they changed from Orisa to Ramatra, that everything just switched like a light. And we saw how well they managed to keep the defense and make it so no matter how many times Boise State kept pushing against them, they still managed to keep their footing.
All right, well, Boise State having the choice of map, and it's going to be the choice of which flashpoint they want to choose. I mean, it's either going to be Servasta or Junkertown, and of course, the one choice that they do get for choice of map is probably the least variety of all of them, because it's either one or the other, heads or tails.
Yep, and of course, we can guess which one, but at this point, it's just a 50-50 chance. But of course, there's always a chance that we'll get the one we usually see. So
yeah, I'd say up New Queen Street is just brutal with that hill you have to climb up and all the high ground positions the enemy team can take against you. It's a brutal map for the attackers, so it might not see any sort of clean sweep here, but maybe Boise State does have that secret sauce that they need to be able to bring this one into the W column.
Maybe they do. And that uphill push goes on both teams, so it's pretty evenly matched.
Off against Syracuse in round 3 of the opening Overwatch PEC matchup. Both teams are tied at 1 apiece. Into the lead and match point on top of that. Let's get down and see what these teams are fancying in terms of their team composition.
See Wrecking Ball off, no surprise. Wrecking Ball already is able to get multiple eliminations right off the gate.
Now the one thing about Strider though is if he's going too heavy into the backline, that leaves Boise State, Squishies, and DPSs completely open to Syracuse's advances, and that is the case. They're losing a lot of DPSs, but Frost and Strider are fighting back. Lunar still hanging out on threat to Boise State on Kings Row. I'd say that's a pretty darn good target to pick up.
Oh, absolutely, and we already have the minefield at the ready. The first ultimate of the game with JQ's well on the way. So it's very exciting to see both these tanks playing so aggressively. Push always going for these extra kills, always making sure that the enemies are being pushed back from the point. We see them both getting their ultimates super early.
Mow down Syracuse and start to round this hairpin turn, nearing the first checkpoint.
Well, great play from Boise State, managed to keep the heat on every member of Syracuse. Watching Strider go around, picking off these squishies, all while making sure they stay on the point. We saw him move right at the end. Play this right, they can put this in their favor, even at a seemingly disadvantage.
Well, Frost has the backline all open to himself, and Strider, they're able to focus on the same target. They can immediately just take out one of those squishies. They do manage to take out Speed Glasses and My Sign Saint. but no ultimates are being bled away by Nation. Gotten off that ultimate, and Diamond Dog and Strider come back very strong.
Yeah,
Boise State has the robot back to themselves.
Yeah, they have the robot, and now they're at the ultimate advantage. So we have seen them playing this right, making sure that they can get Syracuse to drop their ultimates without hurting them too much.
And I see Boise State has been very diligent in paying their $8 stretch, what I like to call Sisyphus Street, because you can just be pushed back so easily here, and it's very hard to take that final point.
Never heard a better way to put it.
Lizard online for Boise State. Orbital Ray also used, giving Syracuse a bit of spring in their step, and a demo on. That one's got to feel good because Syracuse has been putting a lot of dive pressure onto that maze, so being able to take out that Genji with that one shot, definitely a nice victory. Robot is pretty speedy. Back to the checkpoint. Boise State regains their forward spawn advantage. Now, we are now in Newt.
Sometimes.
Making their way up to Union Station. Lunar gets the pick onto Diamond Dog. Frost trying to take out this Widow and just playing a dangerous dance. Widow makes him pay, and now with these respawns so close, Boise State is going to say, no, you do not get to go away. We are going to put a full stagger on you. And is now chasing after these low health squishies. Sign Saint almost being eliminated. They did get the pick onto the Widow. Kitsune Rush and Orbital Ray brought out the Javelin. Strider and Frost both getting elimination for themselves. Lyric gets one onto Speed Glasses, and I think that just might be it. Syracuse, they're gonna have very little time to take the point back, and this Terror Surge is only staggering them out worse. Oh, I think that was a very crucial mistake there by that tank.
And we see Strider pushing forward to make sure people cannot get. Yeah, we saw both teams pushing that robot, especially there at the end. How many times they were going back and forth was very impressive.
So now everything is completely up in the air as Syracuse has a choice of stage. I would normally say that fourth stage is push, but thanks to very funny surprises, 66, Junkertown have all been kind of missing in action a lot in Overwatch 2's lifetime.
Absolutely, and I love a lot of those old classic maps, so I'm really hoping that we can see Escort either come up next, or we see we get into that match point after the next round, so that way we can see it, because I really want to see some of these old maps come into play, because that's not something you see very often, and I'm always a sucker for variety.
Yeah, I want to get back on Route 66, go by the old motel that advertises color television as a selling point, which also isn't a selling point. It sort of turns into an anti-selling point. If that's the best thing that you can put on the exterior of your business, is that television, that doesn't spell good signs for the rest of it.
To be fair, they are quite out in the middle of nowhere, so you might come across a lot of people who aren't quite as used to that. So who knows? Maybe they got a good strategy in mind.
I'm going to challenge you on that one. I don't know. Yes, they're out in the middle of nowhere, but even the Cowboys in Overwatch have cybernetic implants. So I'm going to take a wild guess and say they at least know what 1950s color television is.
I got to give them the benefit of the doubt somehow. Got to have hope for those people. Who knows?
All right, we are going to be going on to Flashpoint, but we are seeing a little bit of a change as Syracuse decides to bring New Junk City into the mix instead.
Yeah, I always like seeing New Junk City. It's always a very fun map, especially with that pit right there in the middle. It's a very hard point to keep, but we've seen these players somehow manage to stay in this low ground, all while keeping this flashpoint the entire time. So if they can keep that up.
Of course, you can also just go for the route of win the team fight first before you claim it, and then you don't have to worry so much, at least for a little while, of the opposing team raining down shots upon you from above. Gives your team time to place one person on the flashpoint, send everyone else back up to the high ground for a little bit more of some better positioning.
That is true, but we are seeing a lot of flankers happening in these games. So maybe
Syracuse has shown that they can surprise us. I mean, I wasn't necessarily expecting Boise State to fall on the King's Row, but that is what happened. In Syracuse, they might have chosen New Junk City because this is their secret weapon. Everyone chooses Servasta, but now we are going to see the pick B season. I'm very grateful that we didn't see yet another 0-3 sweep, even if it would have been in favor of our home Broncos team. I always, as a presenter, just love things, a little wrench being thrown in the plans and things getting a little bit closer.
Yeah, there's always a good mix of trying to stay
table. Frost definitely had a lot of luck on Venture. Was an early pick in Antarctica, so definitely was making things happen, getting those dives onto the back line. Clear gets the first pick onto Asia, now moving on into the burrow and firing out, picking up the Juno as well. Syracuse falling like dominoes. Boise State loses front, has to retreat yet again, but through all this fighting, Lunar's been losing a whole bunch of health, as well as the Juno, who's the first elimination thanks to Clear. Just about everyone chipping in on that elimination. 3 damaging.
Yeah, and we saw there for a moment Syracuse had the upper hand in that room. But the moment Frost came in and snuck up from the high ground, then it seemed like all of them just going, oh wow. We saw that combo of the Pulse Bomb with that other ultimate. Sorry, completely blanking. But we see that ultimate combo as we see a lot from how these players need to make sure that they know what to drop and when. And we see that as a great example right there, getting nearly an entire team wipe.
He just manages to take out Amy, but the rest of the team is bailed out by that immortality field. They're still 4 strong, but being down 1, they managed to get 2 of Boise State picked off, so they have the numbers advantage. Boise State will use the rally. Syracuse needs to take back this point right here, right now. They're looking for their eliminations. Lunar's still hanging on to the Terra Surge as Strider charges his up past 85%. To a big book in the library called the Dictionary and open it up to the S and you'll find a word named sarcasm right there, and maybe that'll help you going forward. Meanwhile, Strider manages to find 2 with the Terra Surge. Clear gets a pick onto Emi, and Boise State is claiming the sludge. Too busy picking up someone with the pulse grenade, lands it onto Azir. And now Syracuse is caught in this very small room. The Javelin just goes right into Lunar. That is not the place they want to find themselves. There is no room to dodge Strider's fury.
We saw all of Boise's team wipes all around. That was so crazy.
I'm sure they'll take that win any day of the week. So as we prepare to close things out, is there any particular player you want to give the shout out to?
Honestly, it's a hard choice between Clear and Frost, because while they both did play very similar roles in those high damage characters who flank all the time, they both managed to do so well. So many points I saw them managing to get behind enemy lines and getting eliminations or just catching them off guard. They managed to keep all the heat off of the tank while not getting eliminated themselves. So great plays from both of them.
All right, Boise State, we had one final look at all of them up on stage as Doc gives them final words of encouragement for winning the match.
Once there was a traveler whose feet never left the ground. With only his mind as his map and his senses his compass, he raced into the great unknown. Armed only with the speed of legend.
Here in Idaho, we do things a little differently. First rule, camouflage never goes out of style. Next, always use fry sauce. I mean, why wouldn't you? Hold steady when out-of-state friends think you're from Iowa. We call it pop, not soda. We always put a lift on our pickups.